Hey, welcome to the Push-Pull Sales and Marketing Podcast. I'm Marcello.
And I'm Sherry, and each episode will provide you with sales and marketing strategies that you can implement immediately into your own business.
All right, so welcoming to the show, we have Brandon Bruce, who is the co-founder and COO of Cirrus Insight, and what they offer is a Gmail and also Outlook plugin, which basically offers sales reps the ability to save time. It offers tracking, templates, meeting scheduling, follow-up reminders, and all that good stuff. And it also links directly with Salesforce.com, one of the largest CRMs out there, if not the largest. So, Brandon, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be with you.
Yeah, definitely appreciate having you on board. So first off, for people who aren't familiar with you, if you can kind of tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, what are you actually into, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a small town kid from California. Grew up in a place called Los Olivos, California, population 800. So my grade school, I was either number one or number two in a class of two. And
nice. Nice.
From there went on to UC Santa Barbara, one of the first 6 campuses on the DARPANET, the predecessor to the internet. So while I was there, started to get really into software and the emerging internet. This was late 90s, so things were really exciting, the big .com boom and bust. And it was there that I met my future co-founder, Ryan Huff, who's the architect and lead product designer and developer for Cirrus Insight. So fast forward from there, Ryan and the dev team for Cirrus Insight are based in Irvine, California. I subsequently moved from California out to DC, and now I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, where it is a balmy 75 degrees, which is pretty amazing for wintertime out here.
Yeah.
And so we run sales, marketing, operations from here in Knoxville, which we found to be a great city to do business. So we've been in the game about 6 years. Cirrus Insight was the first application to market that connected Gmail with Salesforce. So really our thesis back in 2011 was Salesforce is growing fast. A lot of sales teams use it, more coming on board every day. And Gmail, while mostly at the time a B2C application, right, started to make more and more inroads around that time to serving especially SMBs, small businesses, but increasingly some large, mid-market and even enterprise companies back then, and they've continued to grow into that space. So we launched Cirrus Insight to connect Gmail with Salesforce, like you said, make it easy for people to sync email and calendar events to Salesforce, but also, really boost their productivity in the inbox. So you want to see when someone's opening the email that you sent to them, did they open the attachment you sent? Make it easy for them to schedule a meeting with you. So it's really a productivity suite, a time-saving suite, if you will, for those that are customer-facing.
Gotcha. So, and to clarify, so basically you went to school over in California, and this is the first thing you did right out of college?
No. So we finished college a long time ago. So I graduated UC Santa Barbara in 99.
Okay.
And from there, did a lot of different things. Most of my work history has been with nonprofit organizations as a volunteer board member and a staff. And so I did work with California Coalition for Youth, National Network for Youth. When we moved down here to Knoxville, specifically Maryville, Tennessee, for my wife, who's a professor of sociology at Maryville College, I worked at Maryville doing fundraising, so frontline fundraising for about 3 years. And that was really an important time, I think, for me, because I really started to learn the craft of sales. That was my first introduction, because people say, oh, well, that's fundraising. And in fact, nonprofits in higher ed usually have euphemisms for sales. They don't say, well, I'm coming to sell you. They'll say, we're doing development.
Nice.
Developing the organization. Or my favorite was advancement. We're advancing. It's sales, right? You're sitting in somebody's living room saying, hey, this is a great opportunity to provide a scholarship to a future student like the one that you received 50 years ago. Or here's an opportunity to put your name on a building that we're building on campus, and here's why this building's going to be special, and it's going to last for a long time. It's going to make a huge impact. So it is a little bit different than selling that tangible product or a service, but the sales techniques and how you approach people and how you connect with folks and develop that rapport, I think, is very similar to what we try to do now. Oh. So yeah, I had all that experience and then got into the software game about 6 years ago.
Very interesting. So random question. I ask everybody this question. So when you're not helping integrate Salesforce with Gmail, Salesforce with Outlook, what do you like to do for fun?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's pretty fun. The things I really enjoy, really anything outside. So my kids are 6 and 8. So we go play outside, we go camping, we go hiking, take them fishing, etc. I love all that stuff. Knoxville's a great city for that. We're close to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So a little piece of local trivia. The most visited national park in the United States. So people would guess that it's probably Yosemite or Yellowstone, which are both awesome parks. But it's the most visited one in large part because it's near a population center, but also it's free. So we get outside a lot. I'm kind of I like the endurance sports. I like the grind. So I do some long distance cycling, and I've done that for years. Run marathons, stuff like that. Really, any excuse to stay outside for a long period of time, I'm pretty into.
Awesome. Very cool. So basically, if someone has never heard of Cirrus before, or if I have some kind of actual familiarity with the product and with the service, what are the most common questions you hear every day? What are the most common questions that your actual salespeople hear every day in and day out?
Well, it's interesting. When we launched, and many of these things are still true today, when we launched, the application really did two primary things. One is when you're inside your inbox and you receive an email from somebody, it would immediately answer the question, do I know this person already? In other words, you may not know them personally, but does this person exist in your Salesforce org? Are they a lead or a customer? What history do they have with you or your team or your organization? Everything about them in a nice little side panel inside of the inbox. Same for when you're composing a message to somebody. So you get ready to compose, you put in their email address, we search Salesforce, and we say, this is everything you might want to know about this person. And that way you can work faster. You're staying in the inbox, and you don't have to jump back and forth and interrupt your workflow by going from inbox to CRM, back to inbox, back to CRM, et cetera. So that was, kind of the number one thing we did was instant customer intelligence, account intelligence. And number two was we got data on behalf of our end users, salespeople, into Salesforce. So as all of us that are in sales know, we enjoy the relationships. We don't particularly like doing manual data entry. We don't like tasks that track all the things that we're doing in sales. We just like to do the sales. So as far as tracking, here are the emails that I've sent, and here are the emails I've received from a customer. Here are the meetings that I've had. Here are the ones that didn't work out. Here's the stage of that opportunity. Here are the open cases. We make it easy for people to sync that data automatically into Salesforce. So you want to move an opportunity stage rather than having to go through a 12-step process after you log into Salesforce. You just do it straight from your inbox. It used to be we just do that for Gmail users. Now we do it for Office 365 and Outlook users, and we have some mobile apps to do it also. So, those were really at the beginning the two primary value propositions that we presented to our customers, and those are still big ones. Getting the data out of the CRM so that you can use it out in the wild where you do work, and most of us spend several hours, if not more, per day in the inbox and calendar, and then getting the data to flow from those customer-facing platforms, your inbox and calendar, into Salesforce so that you can track them over time and hopefully get smarter, sell more effectively and efficiently. It's probably important also to point out, because you'll have listeners that don't use Salesforce. There's lots of CRMs. Lots of us do sales and keep track of it with a pen and a pad or a spreadsheet, which is still the world's number one CRM. It's probably still Excel. That we do. Cirrus Insight does have an application that lives in the inbox that has just the productivity suite that doesn't have to connect with Salesforce on the back end. So you want to track your emails so you know when people open them, where they are when they open them, how often they open them. You want to use templates so you don't have to rewrite the same email over and over again, or you want to set up those email, nourishment or drip campaigns, as people call them, over time. So day one, send this email, wait 3 days, then make a phone call, then connect on LinkedIn, then send these next 3 emails over the next 3 weeks. You can kind of program in your winning sales playbook, and we'll send those messages out through your account so that they have really high deliverability and open rates versus third-party platforms, and get in front of a lot of people.
Gotcha. So one question then, and again, you would have the data to kind of support that. Again, you mentioned, you think Gmail, that's just more of a consumer tool. How many businesses now utilize Gmail versus how many are actually utilizing Outlook? And then a follow-up question to that is, because obviously, integrating with Gmail a lot of times is probably easier than actually integrating with Outlook. How do you manage that? So one question is what is the actual split for businesses now that use Gmail?
I think I don't know the exact split. I know that Microsoft still has the lion's share of the email market when it comes to Outlook, especially as the organization gets larger. So you get into the mid-market, the enterprise, the percentage that Microsoft controls is still a super majority of accounts, which is not to minimize the fact that Google has a lot of big customers, and we're lucky to be able to serve some of them that are some of Google's largest enterprise customers. On the SMB side, that number starts to flip. I mean, if you're a new company just starting out, I'd say there's a pretty high chance, there's an odds-on chance that you're going to go with G Suite. People are used to using it. They've used it, through high school and college, so it's a platform they're familiar with, and it's pretty easy and very, very low cost to turn that on. And so for new startups, for fast-moving, innovative companies that have a relatively young workforce that are used to using G Suite, those companies are on that. To your point, our architecture is a Chrome extension and a Firefox add-on for Gmail users, and those we can iterate on very, very quickly. I think it's fair to say over the course of 6 years, we've seen a lot of stuff get thrown at us. Right, Gmail changed its whole interface several years ago, so we had to hustle to get compliant with their new design, like everyone else that makes Gmail extensions had to do. Outlook, on the other hand, is different because it's installed software on the machine. We make two different brands of Outlook integration. One is an installed plugin that goes onto the machine and connects with Outlook 2010 or above, and puts the side panel in, just like we do for Gmail. But the world is moving toward that 100% cloud backend architecture. So for customers that use Office 365 in the backend, we make a cloud add-in that when you plug it in, you can send it out to one user, you send it out to 1,000 users, takes the same amount of time. Then it shows up inside Outlook in a pre-designated area that Microsoft has defined for add-ins. So that's the more scalable and future-forward architecture, and Google's also pursuing that on their side with some of their new architecture. So for now, that's still definitely a big part for us, and for anybody that makes an email integration or a browser integration of any type, is you got to be on the ball to make sure that the software will keep working when when your Outlook administrator sends out a service pack. So that's part of the hustle.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. So in terms of like case studies and stuff like that, so let's just say I'm a sales manager. I have about 15 to 20 salespeople. I mean, what kind of hard data do you have, or what kind of stories do you have to show in terms of increased actual productivity? Like, do you have, hey, if you use this service here, you're going to save an average of 3 hours per week per sales rep? I mean, do you have numbers like that?
We do, and some of them, for those types of numbers, as you can imagine, it's very dependent on the type of sale and the sales process that's unique to that organization. So, I'll give you, extreme examples. On the one hand, you've got logistics companies that are doing thousands of deliveries per day. These are, quick opportunities, right? Fast turnaround, fast open, fast close. On the flip side, we've talked with companies that are making, fighter jets for the military. They're closing a sale every 10 years. So, long sales cycle, because that's how long it takes for the Pentagon to approve stuff. So depending on that type of customer, you can sort of apples to apples. So when we have a customer that's in the tech business versus higher ed versus nonprofit, we now have a large enough customer base with over 5,000 logos that we can say, we've got a customer that's pretty similar to you. And to your example, by size, they may not be in your same industry, but they have a similar number of users and work in a similar way, and or similar by industry. You're in construction. We also have another construction company we work with. This is how they use it. You'll probably want to use it in a similar way. And certainly by geography. So we've got a lot of customers across, obviously, United States, North America, but some of our largest customers are also in Australia and Western Europe. And so we can say, and a number in Latin America, increasing number there. So we can say, yes, our application is available in French. So if you're also in France and your workforce is primarily Francophile, then they're going to be able to consume the data that we're presenting to them in their native language, which is important.
Absolutely.
So yeah, finding those commonalities among customers, I think, interestingly, if you go across a lot of software as a service websites, you're going to see a lot of the same logos. This is not surprising, right? So if you're a big tech company, you're out there trying almost every application just to see what'll work well. So you see the big companies' logos on everybody's website as sort of, quote unquote logo customers or case study customers. Mm-hmm. I think though all of us have become a little bit desensitized to that. To see that some huge company uses this software. To us isn't that important because we're still a small company. So we're really looking for an apples to apples. Hey, is there a company that's like us? Because they're also B2B software as a service, or they have about 50 to 75 employees. And then if that vendor is then pitching us and saying, yeah, we serve companies that look like you for the following 3 reasons, that we find to be really persuasive.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, there are other services that, again, CRMs that actually try to track emails, whatever. Again, you kind of have standalone services and stuff like that. And I even think Salesforce tried it, and I'm not sure how well that actually worked out. So basically my question is what kind of sets you apart from some of your competitors? So again, I'm kind of looking at, seeing, and then again, that's valuable insight to know not only when your customer read your email, where they read it. So like physically, is this a person that's traveling, and then how often they look at it? And that you have a fairly decent insight, into that. So let me ask you, for your service, what would set that apart from some of the competitors or some of the other people in this space?
So there's 2 main things that I would highlight that we find are persuasive in our calls with customers that are differentiators. Yeah. Number one is the depth of our integration with Salesforce. So if you're a Salesforce customer and you want your inbox and calendar integration to work with exactly how your Salesforce org is set up. So, and these are terms of art that are unique to Salesforce: custom objects, record types, dependent pick lists, all the profile and permission sets you've set up for your users. That's stuff that, and this is credit to my co-founder Ryan, because he's the Salesforce expert. This Cirrus Insight works with all that out of the box and is very good at that because we've been doing it the longest. So that's an area where it has been starting 6 years ago and is still today a primary differentiator for us, so that we can go into organizations that are very complex, that have really customized Salesforce to suit their workflow, their workforce, their sales process, their playbooks, and we can say, yes, our software will mirror that, so your users can have that same experience that you want them to have in the inbox and the calendar, and it will augment it, right? We're going to send in data in a way, in a structure, and in a timing that will connect with their workflow, and that's what makes it powerful, is to connect it all up together so that it's seamless.
Gotcha.
The other thing that I'll say on the productivity side, there are thousands of sales enablement, quote unquote, sales acceleration applications out on the market today. That's a good thing for a consumer on the one hand, because a lot of competition and there's lots of options. The negative part is there's a lot of options. It can be overwhelming to go shopping right now. What are you going to do? Trial 1,000 different apps to try to figure out which ones to use? And then the real headache, and we're a customer of a lot of sales tech and a lot of apps, is how do you get all of it to work together so that it doesn't constantly break down and you're not spending all your time figuring out integration. So the differentiator there for us is, what we've been working to build over the past several years, and it's an ongoing process, and we keep adding more and more to it every month and every year, is really an end-to-end sales stack. So you want to do some prospecting, we've built that into Cirrus Insight, right, with partnerships to Inside View and Full Contact and others. You want to create those as new leads and contacts and update opportunities and cases, et cetera, in Salesforce? Yes, we've always done that. We're really good at that. You want to schedule meetings with the customers in the easiest possible way by embedding your calendar availability into an email so that your customer can just click the link and schedule with you. Or you can send them a link to your online calendar that shows your free busy information so that they can schedule a meeting with you in a click. We do that too. You want to have that meeting and then update the calendar event so that it syncs to the right fields in Salesforce. We've got you covered. You want to send them a proposal. We acquired a company at the end of last year called Attach, so you can upload all your approved sales collateral, your proposals, your slide decks, your marketing slicks, even your contracts into this platform, send them out for open the proposal. Did they spend a lot of time on it? Did they make it from page 1 through page 10? And we even have some digital signature integration, so you can even get the contract, signed, fully closed one, and then update Salesforce. So from, cradle to grave, if you will, from inception of new prospect all the way to, drip campaigns to nurture that relationship, to scheduling a meeting, having a meeting, follow up proposal, and getting a signed contract, Cirrus Insight can take you through that full sales process, whereas frequently you would need 2, 3, 4, 5 apps kind of stitched together to achieve the same result, with the risk being that the apps don't talk to each other necessarily. And so that's a lot of platforms to try to onboard your team with, whereas you could just choose one piece of software and it's a catch-all.
Exactly, because again, like that's probably the most frustrating. Again, you talk about a small to mid-sized business. I mean, when you're dealing with that, and your Outlook isn't working because you're trying to get some kind of integration or something like that. And it's like the whole reason why we did this was actually to go ahead and save time. But if Outlook keeps crashing, or if this integration actually isn't working, or if I have to go back and forth, I mean, obviously, you want to keep them in the inbox, you want to keep them on the phone as much as possible, because like that's obviously like where deals are made. Now, one thing you said is you acquired another company, so now they're part of Cirrus. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've done that twice.
Okay, so. And again, and this is just morbid curiosity then. So is the goal then to keep Cirrus, like, because you kind of mentioned that you're actually a smaller company, like to kind of keep things like in terms of your pocket, or do you feel like you might try like to join another organization, or basically just kind of grow it at that point? Like, where do you see Cirrus as a standalone thing? Do you see bigger partnerships down the road? Like, where do you see that going?
It's a great question. It's always hard to read the tea leaves. From a strategic standpoint, we, and I've taken a lead role in this, have looked out at the market and tried to figure out, what are we experts at internally? What do we feel like we do really well and can take to market, fully baked? Mm-hmm. And what are areas where if we could acquire it, it would plug in really nicely, fill a gap in what we're trying to take to market. And it's already been built, right? It's already got great architecture. It's already got users on the platform. So in 2 examples, we acquired a company called Assistant.to, which does the scheduling software. So you can schedule meetings with your customers and prospects. You make it really easy for them to say yes to a meeting. And so we acquired that. It still runs as its own separate extension for a pretty big user base. But then also we've built in the functionality from that application into the core Cirrus Insight stack. And similarly with Attach, you can use it as a standalone service, but it gets a lot more powerful when you buy it as part of the larger Cirrus Insight, because then it connects with your drip campaigns, which we call flight plans. So you can launch a flight where step 3 is send the prospectus, send the slide deck. We'll automatically put that link in the slide deck and send it out to the prospect or the customer, on day 7 as you defined it in your playbook. So that type of integration gets really interesting. I think there's still, several pockets where we'll want to continue to build internally. And then there's several opportunities, some of which we're vetting now, that I think there's opportunities, to acquire and add to the Cirrus Insight stack. To your larger question, will there be a time where the larger fish, if you will, then says, oh, what would be great for our stack is to build Cirrus Insight into it. Right. Maybe, never say never in software. A lot of the biggest and best platforms are really, if you trace back their history, the combination of 2, 3, 4, 5, significant companies together that created kind of that master platform that people can use as a system of record. So yeah, I do think that's interesting for all of us that are in the sales enablement space. Sales is big, right? There's millions and millions of salespeople, so I think there's room for lots of us to do well and to win. That said, I think it's also likely that there will be a level of consolidation in the coming years, because customers will develop a level of app fatigue where they don't want to buy 10 apps, they want to buy 2. And so it's finding the best 2 and going with those going forward.
Well, yeah, if you take a look at Salesforce, if you take a look at like the pipeline, that like their CRM, like you look at the apps, look at the actual like connectivity, there's hundreds, if not thousands. And, to go through and again, like in the beginning when you're kind of like gung ho, like, all right, we have Salesforce, let's go get the ball rolling here. I'm not going to lose the data between sales rep to sales rep, whatever your business case is to kind of switch to that CRM. you're right. Because like, how many integrations do I actually want to go through? I have to install this, or like, what other things do I have to do? How do I actually like set that up? Like, you're absolutely right. Or even just actually searching through that. I did want to ask, so again, in terms of like a case study or something like that, what would you say in terms of maybe a business or maybe a company that you helped out with that you probably say that you're the most proud of in terms of like how Cirrus really like changed how they were doing business, or how it improved how they were operating? What would you say you're most proud of?
Yeah, thankfully there's a number of them. I'll mention two off the top. One is a major construction company, and we helped them, and they were in a hurry, so they came to us on a Friday and said, "Here's what happened. We missed a bid," which is to say they didn't miss the number on the bid, they missed submitting the bid because it was on a calendar that wasn't available to the wider team, and so they simply missed the deadline date. So the CEO said, "This isn't going to happen again. We're going to get all of the calendars synced. We're going to get the data into Salesforce so that we can report on it." So they came to us on a Friday, and we had them, syncing over 100, 150 users, by that weekend. So Monday morning, when everyone came to the office, everyone was on the same page. So that was a cool win because they had a very defined use case of, hey, this can't happen again, and why? Why was that such a big deal? Well, their average deal size was in the millions of dollars. We'll call it $1 million, and their average win rate was like 20%, which is pretty high. So just taking those averages, staying on the same page from a calendar perspective was like $200,000 deal for that one bid that they missed. So it was an easy, big ROI for them to get everybody on the same page, and it was a great customer for us to bring aboard. Another one that I can think of, and this kind of goes back to some of my higher ed background, we serve over 100 campuses that use Cirrus Insight, oftentimes in the admissions office, sometimes also in the fundraising office, the advancement or development office. And so those are a lot of fun to work with because I know those use cases really well because I lived it personally. So,
sure.
Thinking of the schools we serve, and I lived in DC for a while, so like University of Maryland and Georgetown and many others, it's fun to go and talk with those teams and see, it's the daily things that they're doing to reach out to their alumni, reach out to their prospective students that, before Cirrus Insight, that activity maybe took 45 seconds, 75 seconds. With Cirrus Insight, maybe it takes 5 or 10 seconds. And so it's like, when you frame it in seconds, it's like, oh, well, there's plenty of seconds. But if you do it 200 or 300 times a day, which is not unusual for a high volume salesperson to be transacting in the 200 or 300 emails a day, then it really adds up. Then you do, to your point, you get into your, hours of savings per week. And that's meaningful. That's hours that you can put into your core business instead. And it's also making it so that, your key people, the folks doing the work, aren't burning out doing the manual tasks. They're focused on growing the business, and also they're having more fun doing it because they've got time to do it.
Absolutely. Very cool. So again, and you've kind of been doing sales, and again, it's interesting to say like fundraising. Yeah, fundraising absolutely is sales. When I worked for one of the largest payroll and outsource providers out there, one of our best inside sales reps, he was doing fundraising for an actual school, and the main difference was it's like when I fundraise for a school, I do a good job and I collect my salary, and that's it. You get no commission ever, and it's probably equally as hard as it was to kind of convince a business when you had a tangible ROI actually in place. So let me ask you, especially being in sales for so long, what do you feel like has changed? What do you feel like is used to work in the past that's maybe not working now? So what's kind of evolved over the last couple of years here?
Yeah, I think I always start with the premise that that sales is hard. Right. I think all of us that have done it realize that it's part art, it's part science, but at the end of the day, it's hard because your customer, like you, has limited time, and so you are at the outset, you're going to interrupt their time a little bit, and then hopefully deliver just overwhelming value. But nevertheless, you got to get in the door, cultivate that relationship, make it happen. I think, some of the things that I think used to work well 5+ years ago, even 3+ years ago, that are working less well now. I think that it used to be a race to like who can build the biggest email list, right? Who has the most just leads in their system, and then it was a numbers game. Let's contact those folks over and over, and a certain percentage will open, a certain percentage will, click, and a certain percentage of those will engage, and so forth. I think that we're finding, if you look at stats on like open rates being sent out by these, huge marketing automation platforms, it's just going down. And the reason is, as with many things, it's because everyone's doing it now. So if you got early in the game, you were one of the few people sending out a lot of emails, that you were winning. But now everyone's doing it, and so all of our inboxes are full of that, and so we just can't spare the time. Similarly, we're seeing that on the phone side, where there's lots of phone calls being made, but there's not as many pickups happening because all of us are on cell phones. So you're rarely calling landlines anymore, and on the cell phone you got caller ID for almost every call, and you're much more likely to be doing something and just send it to voicemail, and then see if you're interested. So it just means that from a strategy and tactic standpoint, we have to think of methods to get in touch with people that cut through the noise, right? Where's the signal in the noise? What's the special voicemail that will really resonate with the person that says, hey, what we do is going to be valuable to you, and we share these things in common, et cetera. Have you really done that research? And that's hard. That's work. And same for emails, right? How do you craft a decent email that's not just a hook subject line, right? I can get you to open an email if I use your first name and say, are you running late to a meeting? Like, you're probably going to open that because you'll be like, whoops, I don't know. Am I running late to a meeting? I don't know if I know this person. But then when you open it, you're going to be disappointed because it's like, oh, this person tricked me into opening an email. It's a bad way to start a relationship. So, how do you send a legitimate one that's intriguing enough that when they open it, they'll be pleased they did because there's some sort of payoff. There's some useful piece of information in there that they can take away, or you've added some humor to their day or something. So anyway, all that's to say, this is stuff that all of us think about all the time. If any of us had the whiz-bang solution, then all of us would then do that, and we'd have to come up with another one. And I think, that's part of the challenge, but also part of the fun of the game is that whatever we come up with 2018 that might work for a quarter or even a full year, it's not going to be the same in 2019 because everyone will do it and it'll go out of style, or it just will stop working, and we'll have to come up with something new. But what does seem to be working very well, that actually has worked for a couple of years now, is just making it easy for the prospective customer to get what they want. So if what they want is to book time with you so that you'll show them your product or service, if you make that easy for them to book time with you, it'll probably work out pretty well. If it's hard, if they're fill out too many forms, or pick a date and you go back and forth by email like 30 times to try to find a good day and a good time to do it, that's hard, and they're going to move away from that, as we all do, right? If something gets hard, we're sort of like, is it really worth it? Do I really want to do it? So if it's easy for the customer, like our software, you can install it in 2 clicks, right? Easy browser extension install. If you want to meet with us, our calendars are on the website. You just pick a time and we'll show up, and you'll show up, and we'll have a meeting. So we try to make some of those things just as dead simple for people to do. So it takes kind of the pain out of the transactional aspect of sales.
Yeah. Now, one question is, do you have anything that would integrate text messaging? Because if you look, a lot more sales are getting away from the phone call itself. And yeah, you're right. It's going more digital toward email and actually toward text mail and text messages. Even, in fact, a lot of customers now, if you call them, they don't even bother even set up an actual voicemail. You just have to shoot them a text message. Do you have ways to integrate with that as well?
Yeah. So in our flight plans, which are our drip campaigns, you can set up a step that says, hey, on this step, I want to send a text message to the person, and you can have that as a quote unquote call script. In this case, it would be a text script that then you could send off as a text message. The other thing is that we natively integrate with a lot of, if not most of, the top apps that do text messaging. So if you are a Salesforce customer and you use one of those SMS apps in your org, then through Cirrus Insight, we can bring some of that functionality into the inbox. So if you want to add someone to a different text campaign or send them a part of a text blast, assign them to a campaign, then you can do that from the inbox, which saves you the time of going into Salesforce and doing the setup.
Absolutely. So right now, and again, just talking about the actual sales aspect to it, again, especially in that actual IT and that software as a service space, how much of your sales reps activity is focused inbound versus maybe outbound, where maybe you have like where they actually see on Salesforce, oh yeah, I see it's an actual plugin or something like that, or I see that actual connectivity versus like your sales reps maybe coming out and actually, approaching people. So what does that sales model look like for you? Is it an email blast and then see what kind of response you get? Is it more cold calling? Like how do you structure that for your own people internally?
Yeah, for us, we're certainly a majority inbound. Having been in the market for 6 years, a lot of it is word of mouth. It's folks that have used us at one company and then take us to their next one, their next one, their next one. And we love those folks, right? Where we're like, okay, we're on with Sally and she's on her 4th company and she's implementing Cirrus Insight for her team there. That's awesome. And we love that. So, we see a lot of that I heard from a friend at this company that they're using your application. I want to use it to get the same sort of results, or our use case is a little different. Can you also do this? So there's a lot of the inbound. But we also do, like you say, email campaigns, out to leads that we meet at events and conferences. So we do a lot of user group meetings, trade show events that are focused on sales enablement, and increasingly marketing, right? So there's a junction happening, I think, between sales and marketing where for many companies historically, those two teams haven't had as close a relationship. And now, because of where the technology is, they can coordinate on stuff and recycle marketing-approved templates and content and collateral in the sales team and sort of improve their whole organizational efficiency. And we'll run some ad campaigns and do some of that outbound outreach. But yeah, the lion's share is inbound.
Cool, very cool. So if you had to give a recommendation, could be a book, could be an app, or could be a service, obviously excluding your own for our listeners, where would you point them, or what would you say is really making a difference for you right now?
I'll tell you, it's interesting, and I'm a person that loves to devour, business books, marketing books. I love anything by Seth Godin. I read his blog every morning, and I've read most of his books, and I just, I think the fact that he writes a daily blog and every single day it's good still amazes me. So I devour that. I think, though, a lot of the stuff that I like to read is totally outside of business or sales or marketing. I think get away from the business, read something, and then you can apply it elsewhere. So one of the books I read the most recently, which I love, is called Tattoos on the Heart. So it's by Father Greg Boyle, who's the founder of Homeboy Industries in Los Angeles. And the real focus of his book, if you were to sum it up in a one-word elevator pitch, it's kinship. Right? How do we get to a point of kinship with our fellow human beings? How do we form that kind of community, that kind of relationship with other people? And what's interesting about his work and his organization's work and what he talks about in the book is how applicable that is. So the risk is, and we have to make sales, right, to keep the lights on and keep the organization healthy, and we all know that. But the risk is if we get over-focused on just the number and forget, even for a short time, that it's a customer there, and the customer means there's a person there who we want and need to have a relationship with, and at best, really establish a level of kinship so that they feel like we're in the game with them and vice versa, that they're in with us, that our two organizations are intertwined. There's a personal relationship, but we also know that what we're doing is the best thing for their company and the best thing for our company. That's a great situation. That's where you get, your customers that are just over the moon about the product. And then we've gotten to know them so well, we're excited for them, right? When we see their press release come out that says they've grown or they made an acquisition or something good happened to them, we're like, oh, like we legitimately feel happy about it. Not just, oh, wow, it looks like they've grown. I wonder if we can, sell them more licenses, or I wonder if that's a good opportunity for us. It's more like, that's awesome that they're winning. You genuinely, feel some empathy and kinship with them. So anyway, that's my, it's not a business book. That's a great book.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. So let's just say person, company, business, they've never heard of you before, but I want to hear more. I'm definitely intrigued. If I want to get a hold of Cirrus Insight, or I want to get a hold of you personally, what's the best way for people to find you?
Yeah, I'm certainly on LinkedIn, so feel free to shoot me a message there. Brandon Bruce, and the company is Cirrus Insight. You can also hit me by email, brandon@cirrusinsight.com. And I and the rest of the team here are very accessible. So hit us through the website, we'll schedule a time to chat, or shoot us an email or a chat. And then certainly, if anyone finds themselves in Knoxville, Tennessee, come by the office. You can enjoy, lunch with the company, or if you're in Irvine in Southern California, I'll make the same offer on behalf of Ryan and our engineering team there. Swing by. They're a good group. We've got ping pong tables in both offices. We take our ping pong pretty seriously. And so we're happy to host you and get a game in.
What is that about, like, software? So, and I've been to a couple of my previous company software providers location, and that was always, I always saw a ping pong table. Is that pretty much like whenever like you draw up like your business plan? It's like, all right, here's the market, here's where we're going to play, here's how we're going to win, and by the way, we have to have a ping pong table. Is that a requirement?
I think so. I think it's like an architectural drawing. You start with a ping pong table and then you build the building around it. If it doesn't fit, then you don't have to get rid of the table. You got to get rid of the building. No, it's funny, man. I grew up playing a lot of ping pong with my brother. So we had big knockdown, drag out matches, all growing up through school. And, but yes, it is kind of a cultural thing, right? For software and tech companies to have the obligatory ping pong table in the room. We recently moved offices though. And so we made what I'll call an upgrade. So previously we had a ping pong table that doubled as a conference table. Nice. Now we've changed gears, and now it's an actual conference table that doubles as a ping pong table, which is to say it looks and functions more like a conference table, but there's a little net that you can pop up and it's got our logo on it, and you can knock out a game of ping pong.
Nice. Very nice. All right. So aside from ping pong, any final words of wisdom for our listeners? Any kind of final thoughts you'd want to share?
Oh, shoot. Good question. Have fun with it. If you're out there, in the game as an entrepreneur or business owner, salesperson, all of us know it's a tremendous amount of work, but it is fun. I mean, if we step back, I think it's fair to say, what else would we rather be doing? The hustle is part of the attraction of the whole thing. So yeah, for anybody listening, keep doing it.
Awesome. Very good. Well, thank you, Brandon. We definitely appreciate having you on.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
That wraps things up for this episode, and wanted to remind you guys that you can always find show notes at pushpullsales.com. You can also connect with us on social media. We are at pushpullsales on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can reach out to us anytime if you have feedback or topic suggestions or want to be a guest on the show. You can simply email us, pushpullsales@gmail.com. You can also support our show at patreon.com/pushpullsales. Thank you to bensound.com for our intro and outro music. And thanks to you guys for listening. Tune in next time where we'll tackle another topic. See ya.